Well, we had a really good interview, Michael Yon and me, today. So, hope you'll enjoy it. But I've noticed something that's pretty indicative or weird. But, that's censorship for you. I'm noticing that a lot of people are contacting me, asking why they subscribed, and then they get no notification. Then they go back, and they realize they're not subscribed. And then they do it again. And they think they're subscribed. So if you would, right now, please make sure you're subscribed. And the way to do that is when you click on it, click on the bell, and then click all. That'll do two things. What it'll do is it'll affect the algorithm. You shouldn't be unsubscribed. You should be subscribed, and also you'll get notifications of all the new episodes that come out. And that hopefully will stop being unsubscribed by whatever censorship's happening, which makes sense considering my background. And I don't know if you've actually Googled my name, stuff that comes up on Wikipedia and other articles have been written about me. So a lot of them very controversial. And so that would explain why I would be censored, especially if Discovery Channel or Discovery Communications has anything to do with it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'd probably enjoy my book, So You Want to Be a Reality TV Star, about my experiences about starring on Treasure Coast Snake Island and the whole lawsuit against Discovery, which, by the way, I did win. So that in itself should tell you something. But on that note, censorship, powers and control, the power elite and what they're trying to do population thinning, population control, the screwworm, the jab. Michael and I talk a lot about this, so I hope you enjoy the episode and share it with your friends. Ignorance is not bliss, let me tell you. You learn everything you can, you try to find out whatever you can, and hopefully that might get you by, and hopefully it'll get us all by. On that note, God bless, and watch your six. Greetings and welcome to Cork's podcast, the Cork's Critical Thinking Corner. And today, once again, we have Michael Yon. How you doing today, Michael? And congratulations to you and Masako. If you want to do a little quick brief about what's happening, so I know my readers and listeners are going to be very interested in hearing a little bit about a little bit of your ventures today.
Yeah, I was just checking the date. It's Masako is 25 weeks and 4 days pregnant.
Wow.
5 days now.
Wow.
So we're really, really blessed and super happy. But we're having those midwife dramas because we want to go with a midwife and the medical industrial complex basically being cannibals because they want to steal the placentas and steal the umbilical cord so that they can make their medicines to, the forever young stins. Actually, and I don't mean this hyperbolically. I mean it like actually literally flat tone. Doing the stem cell thing is actual cannibalism, right? Yeah. Now, you're not eating it with your mouth, but but it actually are. I mean, they're getting those from those umbilical cords is one place where they get it, right? And so they're actually stealing the umbilical cords and the placentas from the women. Yeah. The women they don't realize that they're basically, this is a human farm. And so they steal the baby should be the one getting that blood. There's blood in there. The baby's only born, from what I've read, with about 2/3 of the blood it needs. The other third is in the umbilical cord. Yeah. And they cut it immediately to catch all that in there instead of letting it pump back and forth between the mother and the baby. The umbilical cord is still alive and pumping like a human fiber optic cable, and it's God's creation there. That thing is still at work. And that's why you can do the underwater births and all that, because a baby doesn't need to breathe. It's got umbilical cord. And so, but they clamp it right away because it's super valuable. Yeah. And so you look on YouTube and you can see companies, and they'll show you how they're advertising their clamping products and, how to, because those are very, very valuable. And then you've got these other businesses that say, we'll freeze your your various parts so that you can use them later for medical. And then, you'll see these reports where, oh, then they needed it. And, it was contaminated, they say, or whatever. Yeah, right. Okay. We really believe you. We just went through 2020. I have absolutely zero faith whatsoever in the medical industrial complex. We know that it is organically, it grows from the evil soil of lies, right? Yeah. That's the soil it comes from. Yep. Its seed and soil are lies and deception. And so they literally are stealing those placentas, literally stealing those umbilical cords, right? And just imagine, that's human farming. Then they resell those for as medical products. These, I have friends that do the stem cell treatments and whatnot. I wonder how many of them know that, that's actually, they're getting that stuff from stolen umbilical cords and whatnot.
Well, it's from what I'm learning, in the research I've done, and even like in the Skull and Bones and the Rothschilds and everything, it goes back into slavery, and it goes back into these ancient traditions of slavery, and we were talking about drugs last time. It's the drugs and the slavery, and you go into the history of Elihu Yale, the origins of Yale University. I mean, he made his money in slavery and drugs, the opium, the opium wars we've talked about. Mm-hmm. And it's this constant thing, and it goes all the way back. I've been studying about the Nephilim and the Rothschilds and the Edomites and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, they're all tied together. And now what we're looking at are the screwworms. And these screwworms seem to be another continuation of it, which is control of the population. And part of that control is what we were just talking about, is population control, but at the same time making a profit off of that. So I'm really curious, what we're talking about today with the screwworm. How does that relate to what you've talked about quite a bit, which is about population control, which is population thinning?
Well, two major operations. Now, keep in mind, Misako and I first started talking about screwworms 5 years ago, and I published those emails multiple times. Yeah. And I just put it on my X yesterday and on my Substack. In fact, I should put it on my Substack again today. Those emails from about June, maybe 21st of 2021. It was 5 years ago, right? And so, anyway, we were down in Panama and we were tracking down the screwworm thing because we thought they were going to end up getting back into the United States, which they have done now. And 5 years ago, we threw that dart and it hit right in the middle. How did we know they were going to do that? We didn't really absolutely know, but we just strongly thought that that's what would happen. And so, because clearly some of these people are doing a couple of things. One is they want to do a huge depopulation. Yep. Now, often people will say, well, why would they do that? Then they'll just destroy their tax base. Let's get clear. They don't care about your taxes. Your taxes are nothing. It's like dust in the wind. They don't need taxes. They print money. The taxes are control mechanisms. That's all they are. You pay taxes so that they can control how you do things. That's it. And force you to, if you're the one filling out paper for somebody else, you are the slave, right? Yeah. If you're the one getting people to fill out papers, you're the slave master, right? And in that transaction. But in any case, the taxes are about control. They don't need your money. They can absolutely print it, right? Yeah. And so another thing though with the screwworms is getting, with those you can start culling the cattle and the sheep and everything else that are used for food, goats, right? They'll just use that as casus belli against agriculture, just like everything else, right? So they'll start killing them. Now, imagine how this plays out. First of all, less food. So, and another is they can imagine all the ranchers in Texas and Florida and all these places. Florida is a huge, cattle state, and I think at one point Florida may have been more cattle than Texas. I'm unclear about that.
I don't know about that, but northern Florida has always had a big cowboy.
Not just northern Florida. I mean, where I grew up. There's cattle everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Central Florida, and south of us were still cattle everywhere. That's where the name Cracker came from. Cracker came from. I mean, cowboys weren't all Texas. There was cowboys all over Florida. They called them crackers because they would crack the whip, right?
Oh, that's where they came from. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't
Now
know
there's dispute and argument about where the term came from, but generally
that makes sense.
I think that's actually where it came from. But they call them, Florida crackers. Those were Florida cowboys, right? And there was, I would say it would be harder to be a cowboy in Florida than Texas, actually. And I've been all over Texas and all over Florida. Texas is rough country, but Florida, man,
it's drier.
there's a reason why Florida was the last state really to be really populated. Florida it looks easy now because you got the electrical grid and all the water's laid out and that sort of thing, but that took a long time. Anyway, so the screwworms. First of all, reduction of the cattle, reduction of goats and cow, because the screwworms go for anything, mammals. It goes for humans. They go dogs, cats, right? And so you can also then run the farmers, the ranchers out of business and take their ranches. So that's massive amounts of land, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you're doing multiple things here. Again, they don't want your taxes. Your taxes are zero. They want your life. They want your land. That's it. They want your property. They want you. They want everything you own. They want the gold in your account, right? They don't care about fiat. The people that we're talking about are way beyond mere fiat. You know what I mean? They're talking power. They want like Panama Canal. They want Suez Canal. They want Strait of Hormuz. They want big boy stuff, complete, and they want to live forever, right? And that's why, for instance, that constantly trying to, anything at all to live forever, any kind of magic, cannibalism, doesn't matter. Many people over I don't know how long it goes back, have done cannibalism to get power, right? They would eat the hearts of their enemies or the hands of their enemy to get their strength or their courage or whatever, right? And many parts. And so, but the point is, there's also these products that can come from humans that they think that would make them, be youthful longer or just live longer and youthfully, right? And they talk about this stuff all the time. The people that go to Davos, that's one of their main topics, is how do we live longer? One of the ways to live longer is to get rid of most of the people on Earth, right? And they don't want most of the people on Earth getting in the way of their park. They don't care about the Irish. They want Ireland. Yeah. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care about your family or your history or your photo album. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah. They're going to erase you, right? Now, keep in mind, this happens all through time. If somebody is on a plot of land that has a bunch of gold or silver or copper or just food or whatever under the ground or a nice river or route that goes through, you better be able to defend it because, you got the benefit of having that black soil in Ukraine. You've also got the curse because somebody else is going to want it. It's also a perfect, it's a great route. So these places like this are around the world, like Panama. Panama, a lot of Panamanians seem to think that they actually that the canal is theirs and they made all that stuff. I can assure you the way the globalists look at it is they'll kill every one of you. They'll kill every one of you. They'll either run you out or murder you, right? Like Gaza, right? Because you did not make the canal and you can't defend it, right? And in fact, Panama was made by the United States on November 3rd, 1903 to make the canal. It was part of Colombia. But who made Colombia? Colombia was taken from the Indians, right? And Panama was taken from the Indians as well, right? So this is one layer after another that's doing this. And so, and likewise, they'll do the same to the Israelis. The Zionists will absolutely kill the Israelis, including the Jews, right? They'll kill the Zionists and Israelis. I'm sorry, Zionists and Jews. They've been killing each other for a long time. That's how a lot of Jews ended up in Israel because Zionists were killing them and blaming it on others. It was Zionists killing them.
With the Nazis,
straight up. I mean, like right like that, and a lot of them moved together down to Argentina. Zionists and Jews and Nazis moved to Argentina after World War II, right? I mean, and before. So I mean, it's funny things in real life. we got the movie life, and then we got more of the reality is way different. And the bottom line is, if you got something valuable and you cannot or will not defend it, somebody will come and take it, because the real power comes from a sword.
Yeah. Now, I sent you that Farmer's Bulletin that kind of surprised me, because I always been downloading a bunch of Farmer's Bulletins from like the 1900s until about 1970. And those bulletins, as I read them, I realize, back then the government was trying to help you be independent. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm talking with G. Edward Griffin on Friday. And one of the big questions I'm going to be asking him is about individualism and collectivism, and how they basically turned us into a socialist society over the last 100 years or so. And one of the ways is they've made us so reliant on the government for all the things that used to be done. Like a farmer would go off, work his land, and he would be decided upon by how successful he was by that land. There wasn't a bailout. There wasn't all this other stuff that the government would say, oh, don't worry about it. We'll come in and give you the money. But now we're in a situation where previously that bulletin was telling you how to deal with screwworms and deal for your cattle and all kind of stuff, marked from what 1919, I forget what the date was on that, to what it is now, where the government was doing all this abatement, all through Central America and Latin America. And then a month ago was it that they just stopped that program? And now suddenly all these screwworms are showing up in Texas, and Texas, Abbott is like pulling his hair out trying to see what he can do as a state to abate the screwworm. So my question is this just a collapse? And then we're going to see more of these collapses of all these departments that used to do all this work? Or is this an active, close it out, we want those screwworms in here, which is even more dastardly as compared to the government just collapsing? Or is this an actual active where they're just saying, okay, let's close these departments because we want that stuff to come in here, which we've been abating for, about 80 years, 60, 70 years from coming into the United States and into our cattle?
They clearly wanted to come in. That's why we were able to predict it 5 years in advance. I mean, that's a pretty long shot. And how were we able to predict it? Because we know what they're doing. We also predicted Nord Stream being blown up, and well in advance, many, many times. We predicted Groningen gas field being closed. Many people predicted that. But most people, though, were like, they're never going to close Groningen. That's the biggest gas field in Europe. And I'm like, McFly, yes, they will close. They will close Groningen because they want to kill you, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they want to take Europe. And they're flooding Europe. They're flooding Ireland and the United States and Canada and here in Japan. They're flooding these places with people that they will use to commit genocides, and then they will genocide them. That's a normal plan. This is normal. This is nothing new, right? They'll use them to do the killing, and then they'll kill them. This is normal, right? There's nothing exotic about this. There's nothing conspiratorial about it. It's all in these books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want, what's that old saying? If you want to read something new, just look in an old book. It's all there.
Yeah.
I mean, all this. I mean, the things that we've been predicting. And it sounds like genius sometimes. It's not. I just read all night. I read years and years and years. Masako asked me recently, she asked me what I did, for some reason, she asked me what I was doing in 2001. She was almost not random, but it was, anyway, I said, actually, 2001, that was one of those years that I spent doing nothing but reading. I mean, I was in the libraries. I was in the University of Florida libraries. I was at Gainesville libraries. I was at those bookstores, Barnes and Noble, and all those guys. I spent the whole year reading, right? And then 9/11 happened, and then I shot off to India and places like that, and I, ended up in the wars. But every once in a while, I just stop, and I'll spend months at a time reading. That time I spent a year reading, right? And then I go off to the wars or tracking cannibals or that sort of stuff, or Darien Gap or whatever, But a lot of what I've done is just years of reading. And eventually, you're like, it feels like cheating to predict that the Zionists would close the Strait of Hormuz and blame Iran. And I published that on July 3rd last year, on my Substack. And it was very clear. I don't know, of course, but I think that the Zionists will close the Strait of Hormuz and blame Iran. It sounded crazy back in July of 2025, and then they did it. Then they did it. It was obvious. And it was so obvious to me because I spend so much time in these books. It's not like a big calculation. It's just remembering what I've read. And and like Malacca, I think that they'll go for Malacca as well. I think that they'll go for Malacca. They don't have to control it. They just have to stop Chinese from going through it, right? They want to. I think. Well, it's very clear that Zionist and Chinese Communist Party are fighting hard, and they're trying to kill each other, right? And they, because they're fighting over Panama, they're fighting over Argentina, they're fighting over a lot of places. One place that they're going to be fighting for, besides the United States, is well, one of the ways that China can be beaten. Just because you're outnumbered doesn't mean anything. You know, people that are counting tanks and ships and all this stuff, that's not how war goes, brother. That's just one component, right? That's just one component. You can have all the tanks and stuff in the world. We'll blow up your oil, right? Where's your tanks now, right? You know, so the point is if they close, if let's say the Zionists were able to use Indonesia to close, or somebody else to close the Strait of Malacca and close, other places that are already closed like Hormuz, and just keep closing these places, adding them all up. And get a war going with Brazil so that and control the Panama Canal. You can, as you add these things up, you can possibly start to put China into famine, especially if something happened to Three Gorges Dam, right? That sort of thing, right? But likewise, China knows this. Chinese are super smart. They're just as smart as the Zionists, and I would say actually a lot smarter, actually. And what the Zionists are really good at is infiltrating and taking over, like is a brain disease into other populations. They've been good. They're very good at hijacking. Chinese can do that too, but they're very good at that. But the Chinese can actually run a country, right? They can actually successfully run a country, and whereas opposed to hijacking a country that somebody else builds, it's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
So the Chinese are expanding of their own volition. They've got their own. They are their own thing. And they're a bigger tribe. So, and also the Chinese are just as spread out as anybody. I mean, they're all over Africa. They're all over South America, all over the North America, Mexico, and the Caribbean. I mean, they're spreading out there. They're doing it, right?
Well, in your travels in Asia, did you ever the nickname? I heard the nickname when I was raised there, but do you know what the nickname is for the Chinese? Or no, for the Chinese in Asia?
I've heard it called the Jews of Asia. That's common. That's common. That's common. That's common. And the people that say that are Asians.
Nobody hears it in the States. Nobody hears it in the States.
No, because every time I've heard that, it's been from an Asian. Yeah. And they do have a lot of the same sort of firmware, right?
Yeah.
Negotiation
style and
yeah. And Mao would say, tan tan ta ta, right? Talk, fight. Or fight, talk. And so it was a fight, talk. And that's what they're doing. That, when I look at what's going on now and these, about, I guess, 40 calls for peace or whatever that Trump has said, something like that. I'm just like, there is absolutely no real peace talks going on, period. I don't even take anybody seriously people have said some of these big thought leaders that you see on TV, they send me stuff that they're analyzing the peace talks. And I'm like, listen, man, you're wasting your time and mine. Like, there are no peace talks, and you of anybody should get this. You know what I mean? This is nonsense. You either don't know what's going on, or you do know what's going on and you're part of the deception. Or you don't know what's going on and you're part of the deception, right? The bottom line is there are no peace talks, no credible peace. It's not real, not just no credible. There are no peace talks. It's just deception, right?
Yeah. There's no money. There's no money in peace. That's what these people have in their mind, which is they can't make money if there's peace. So they have to have something going on wherever it is in the world, and it's just constant. And it's been going on.
And this is about, listen. Every war you've ever studied is about routes and resources, right? And ideology.
Yep.
But that's resources, because the number one resource on planet Earth is human resources, right? Everything else is subordinate. If you have if you have sufficient human resources all over the world, and they are sufficiently loyal and sufficiently on the same sheet of music, sufficiently, they don't have to be perfect, but on the same, same harmonic, you can do incredible things with those human resources, right? You can get control of the other resources. You can do it. You can control a giant jet just by breaking into the cockpit and taking control. I'm in charge now. You don't run. You don't know how to build the jet. You could, that sort of thing. You don't know how to run the airline, but you've got the cockpit now. But but on a higher, more sophisticated level, some of these firmwares have been developed over millennia, right? They're very, very good at coming in, doing the dance, taking control of the information. The word entertainment, right? As somebody said today in a private chat, that entertainment, the tain part means control, right? Contain, contain, right?
Yeah.
So entertain is, the people, the entertainers. That's about getting your attention, fixing the gaze, right? So you've got their attention. Now you can sell the message. You can either sell it overtly through hey, buy our Coca-Cola or whatever, or you can do it subtly, right? Like Trump's always selling Coca-Cola, right? I mean, so Trump's got your attention, and now he's shilling, hanging out a drive-through window or something, right? So I mean, so entertain is to. Yeah, it's been a while since I've heard somebody bring it up, but on a private chat today, somebody brought up the etymology of entertainment again, which is very important because that is what this is about. What these people that are very good at entertainment, taking over the entertainment industry and that sort of thing, that's where you get your messages through, right?
Yeah.
That's where you make your information flow in the big psyop, because the biggest weapon out there, the biggest form of warfare, well, again, it's about human resources. Is through getting their attention and feeding your message.
Now, when you said you saw how the screwworm was going to be coming in, what was it specifically that made you think it was? The reports of the screwworm populations increasing locally in Panama and those places, or what was it that got you looking at it more?
Well, I had never heard of screwworms until Masako and I were sitting down and meeting with an intel guy down in Panama. And we were talking about the value of the Darien Gap, right? How not just Darien, but Panama and the whole region, right? Yeah. Like, why is this place important? Why is that place important? Yada yada. So we're talking about this quite a lot. And then he brought up screwworms, and I'm like, what are screwworms? And, I'd never heard of them. And he starts explaining about, there's this program in the United States, and, that screwworms are all over the place. And they had, found out ways to control those through irradiating the males and yada, yada. So anyway, not to go into that. And now I know a lot about them, actually. Yeah. And in fact, I found one of the veterinarians, he's in Texas now, who actually was, when he was younger, was part of the program eradicating them, right? So anyway, so Masako and I, we left that meeting, and Masako just walked in the room. Hey, Masako, she's walking back out. So Masako and I were in that meeting, and the guy mentioned screwworms, and I'm like, what are screwworms? And he said, down here in Panama, the Darien is the front line. That's like the mud trenches of World War I against screwworms, right? Yeah. Because, and so we have the COPEG people down there who irradiate the billions of male flies, drop them out of airplanes and that sort of thing, with parachutes on the boxes and that sort of thing. And that's how they control the population. So we no sooner than walked out that meeting, and I said, Masako, those screwworms are going to make it back to the United States. We immediately contacted the people. Immediately, because we know what they're up to, right? Yeah. Now, when he was talking about screwworms, he was just saying that this is one of the many programs in Panama that most people don't even know are here, and they're important to the United States, right? But again, my Carver mind came out, the criticality, accessibility, recuperability, vulnerability, effect. When you're doing a sabotage campaign, what would I do if I knew screwworms would do that and I wanted to destroy the United States and I wanted to cause famine? I would cut Nord Stream, I would cut Groningen, I would control Strait of Hormuz, I would get control of Suez, Turkish Strait, Danish Strait, Malacca, Panama. You know what I mean? This is what I would do. I would release screwworms. I would release bovine tuberculosis. I've said this many times. I would have epidemic typhus coming around through the lice and other things, right? And I've said this many times. I don't bring up the epidemic typhus and bovine tuberculosis and human tuberculosis much anymore, but the things that I've said so many times stand. I haven't changed or altered my view on that at all. If anything, it's more firm than ever. I think you're going to see bovine tuberculosis as well, right? That's another way of getting rid of the cattle. As soon as you have a certified, like, hey, we've got an outbreak of bovine tuberculosis in Texas, that's it, man. You're not certified anymore. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Then you got screwworms, you got bovine tuberculosis, and now, there's more and more cases of human tuberculosis. And anyway, these are things. As soon as we walked out of that meeting, I found out who the people were that were doing the program in Panama. I messaged them on the same day, and got their response. And I was like, that's cover up. Messaged them again a couple times. I'm like, I deal with a lot of governments. Yeah. That's a cover up. I know a cover up when I smell it. Just like, a cop can go, hey, that guy actually did. That's a drug dealer. You know what I mean? That's like, it's funny because I told that same guy later and some others, but him in particular, I said, they're covering that up. And he goes, oh, no, you don't understand how I'm like, no, brother, you don't understand. I deal with people like you, not you, Cork, but him, intel guys. I deal with lots of you guys, and I deal with lots of people like that. Yeah. And I know bullshit when I see it. You know what I mean? And that was bullshit. And now the screwworms are back.
So
right?
the intel guy, was he an agency guy or a military guy? Was he a Pentagon guy?
I'm not going to say any more on that.
Okay.
But he's a guy that would definitely know. Let's put it that way. Okay. And he did know. He did know. But what he did not know is like he doesn't have that X-ray vision. Like he believes in the jab, right? And was damaged from it actually, and he believed in
true believers.
He believes the government is doing the right thing and all this stuff. I'm like, I know that's where your paycheck comes from and all that stuff. And but remember, you took the jab, man, and it's damaged. It's been very damaging, right? To people, him. And so, but the thing is he doesn't. If he could see that other wavelength, it's like we see a frequency that some people don't quite see. Like an insect can see ultraviolet. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's out there. It's not hidden. It's right there if your eyes can perceive it.
Yeah.
Right.
But in your conversation with him, he still believes the program in his mind. Is that?
On the screwworms.
Well, just everything, the whole. Because see, this is a mentality that I notice is why are these people able to continue to participate in these programs unless they are so lost that they can't get out of themselves to look back at themselves and go, "Whoa, what am I doing here?" And I don't see that. You know what I'm saying?
I think I've thought about this a lot, and I know you have as well, because we've dealt with the same sort of people all over life. And I think a lot of our friend circles will overlap as well. Our actual
they have. That's why we've talked to. Yeah.
But as you know, there are a lot of people that are just true believers, and a lot of them actually are good people in their heart, but they just, and they're not like, it's not like they're evil. And that's why you don't want to, I don't want to hurt them. They're like good people. They're just, how do you get them out of that? Right. That's the ongoing process of how do you there are ways to pull some people out. You can, like, one technique is it's a sales technique, actually. It's what would it take for you to, like, one of my friends, he's a farmer sales. One of my friends, we grew up together. We've known each other since we were like really small kids. And at one point, I was like, those jabs are horrific, man. And you're working for the people that do this crap, right? And at one point he's like, okay, what would it take to persuade you? And I'm like, you know who you're talking to. That's the oldest sales trick in the world. I use it all the time. It's like, what do you mean? You're coming out with a basic judo trick. It's like, what would it take to persuade me? What? They just rolled this thing out, allegedly, right? And there is no way on planet Earth, even if they're honest, which they are not, And let's always go back to that. They are liars. Let's always go back to that. That's very important. They are genocidal liars. Yeah. That's all. That's actually all you need to know. All else follows, right? But if you wanted to take it one step, like one physicist I know, he was saying just a few weeks ago, basically going, I went through the numbers, yada 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 yada. Like he's, obviously a physicist. He's really good at math. I'm like, yeah. Okay, but what's behind those numbers? Again, PhD, physics, the same thing, but for whatever reason can't see that, because in his universe, everything comes down to numbers and graphs and all this, but where'd those numbers come from? Where did they come from? I mean, it's so simple. First principles. Yeah. Well, these came from Harvard. Okay, who's the Harvard guy? Okay, let's call him up. Let's call him. Let's call him. Where'd your numbers come from? Yes. Where'd your money come from? Right? I mean, first principles. Let's get the first principles here, right? You always have to go back to that. And as a physicist, you should know, we got to go, why does this thing go clink, clink, clink? You know what I mean? There's a reason. Yeah. But so many people are easy to fool in their own domain. You can fool doctors just by putting the main the very prestigious journals, and they're fooled. We had a meeting with an obstetrician here in Japan. I'll finish off. It was on June 2nd, so earlier, just 15 days ago, right? And she's still a jab pusher. Yeah. In Japan. Yeah.
And here in the States too. Yeah.
Because we didn't want to do the ultrasound, right? And she's like, no, it's been, it's proven safe and all this, and yada yada. I'm like the COVID vaccine. I actually used that word because I don't think she'd know what jab meant because of language thing. And I said, like the COVID vaccine, that was proven safe, right? And then she actually defended it. Wow. And I was like, we got to get out of here. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is like Silence of the Lambs to me. Yeah. I mean, if you're a doctor wearing the lab coat type stuff and you're telling me that the jab is safe, I'm out. There is no further medical advice I want to hear from you. I don't want to be anywhere near you. That's because this is beyond mid 2026. There is no further use for you in my ear. You know what I mean? And so we left, and that's it.
It's mind blowing because I mean, because of how I'm connected in the medical field, I know a lot of the numbers, and the numbers are mind blowing, especially when you hear about these doctors who are pushing the jab, and a lot of those doctors are no longer here, and they did get the jab. Yeah,
because they're dead, as you know, they are dead. Yeah, they're dead. Yeah. And so that's why they're not bothering us anymore. Like Scott Adams, take the jab. Blah, blah, blah. I'm so smart. I'm Scott Adams. I'm so smart. I'm so smart. He was always like, I'm so smart. I'm the smartest guy out here while he's smoking dope. I'm like, when I'm getting advice from somebody who's high, look, if you don't respect your brain, I'm not going to respect your thoughts, right? Yeah. It's like, hey, I pour soft drinks all over my computer, or you should believe my computer. It's like,
I'm curious about what your thoughts are about what's happening, because we're using the terminology medical industrial complex, and that's what we used to call the MIC, was the military industrial complex, and I'm finding myself more and more when I say the MIC, I'm not talking about the military anymore. I'm starting to talk more about the medical, and partly it's because I'm seeing that as being the more reliant objective of thinning out the population, mainly because we're finding more of the youth. Like, we went and fought. We went into the military, and we went with a patriotism. We're not getting that anymore from the younger generation. So I'm starting to see, or maybe I'm just guessing, that you're going to find more energy being put into using the medical MIC to get the thinning of the people, because the military MIC is not working as well as a business model for these people to affect us. What do you think?
Well, they're not two separate things. I mean, they're the same. They're part of the same body, right? They're part of the same. And by the way, look at this. This is from what year is this? 1911. Oh, the year they made those great pistols. Rockefeller on the hookworm stuff, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is, I was talking with Al Johnson.
Anything with that name on it is questionable.
Yeah, that's right, man. I was talking with Al Johnson the other day, and he brought up how Al Johnson is
you told me about
historical,
him.
historical detective agency. So we were talking about Rockefeller stuff because I found something in this old magazine, and in a medical journal, which I have here actually. I order these things and I look through them just to see what I can find.
Yeah.
But anyway, he started telling me about the operation, the hookworms, right? The hookworms were a huge operation.
Yeah.
To change the laws so that they could just come into your home, right? And you should see this. They've got these hookworm maps around the world here. This is.
Can you send me a photograph of that front cover offline?
Yeah, man. Look at that. Those are maps around the world of hookworm stuff. So we grew up hearing about hookworm. That's why the people in the South are lazy, because they got hookworm and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll send it to you. Yeah. But the thing is that there's so many things like this, like polio. I read 3 books on polio. Polio is fascinating. Polio was a huge grab for control, right? Yeah. And so people say COVID was the first time they did such a big. I'm like, you don't know anything about polio, do you? Polio was just as over the top as COVID. I mean, way over the top on control. And the hookworms were used very. This operation, they didn't call it Operation Hookworm, but they should. You know what I mean? And this is still going on. This is still going on, right? And this is done all over the world, the hookworm thing. This was a way that they got laws changed and all kinds of stuff, so they can just come into your house and do whatever they want, inspect your house. Yeah. I
mean, it's just wild. Man, you're going to have to get a new house or a bigger house because you're going to be buying a lot of hard copies. I'm always sending you links to e-files. And it's just like
I bought I don't even read e-books, man, because they change them. I bought the dope book that you recommended. I haven't read it yet.
But you got a hard copy.
Basically, this is everybody should look at these. Should be around every hospital. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
did you get that in Cambodia? Was that from Cambodia or is that from?
I've been to Cambodia and I've been to Laos and all those places and seen a lot. But
that looks like the ones that they use in Cambodia. I don't know if you got. Yeah, if that's where you got it. Yeah.
No, you can get them online, and because I think that they're a good teaching tool because. Because a lot of the minefields that we walk into, they are marked, right? Yeah. All you have to do is believe the signs, And I saw quite a few people step on things and blow up right there in front of me. Mm-hmm. Like one of the last missions I went on, soldier Chazray Clark just stepped off the path slightly and blew his legs off and blew his arm off, right? Yeah. And it's just slightly stepping off the path. And that's the state of war that we're in now, right? Mm-hmm. We're in a state of war where you make a mistake and you will pay on the spot in cash. And the cash that you pay will be your blood. I mean, that's it. If you screw up and you take some of the smartest people I know took the jab.
Yeah.
Like one of the guys that I've always thought he was one of the smartest people I've known. He's very wealthy now. I've known him since we were very young. He took the jab. And I'm like, this is the thing. He became very wealthy as time went on. He started from scratch. But the thing is one of the things when you read about pandemic, and over the years, I've read more than 60 books on pandemic. Most of them I read before this pandemic because war and pandemic go together, right? Yeah. And the more you read about pandemic and famine, it's actually quite fascinating. In total, I've read probably, I would say, about 90 books on pandemic and famine collectively, right?
What's a book that really comes to mind when you think about a book that like really caught you and said, wow, this is worth other people reading themselves if they have the time?
I would read on pandemic. I would choose at least a couple of books on polio, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's fascinating because you will find that it's very especially get older books. You'll find that what happened during the polio time, man. In my other room, I have these big photos of Elvis getting his polio jabs and stuff.
Oh yeah,
I wish I had them here. I would hold it up and show you. I've got several actually. There's different times when he's joining the army, so he's doing nested things. Yeah. This is Elvis in the army getting his polio and his other vaccinations, right? Yeah. It's like, you can't make up this stuff. Yeah. But I would read about polio, and the reason I would read about polio, especially like the 1952 outbreak and that sort of thing, is then and read about the formation of the March of Dimes and that sort of stuff. Don't just read about it as just read about it as don't just read the propaganda part, but read like. That was a major. I mean, if you didn't have your light on and stuff like that, you were looked like you had the plague. What? You don't support the March of Dimes? You know what I mean? You know, the annual telegrams or whatever they called them. What was it when they had the
Yeah, I forget, but yeah, where they call in and donate.
Comedian.
March of Dimes. Telethon.
What was that guy? The comedian. What was his name? And
Not Jerry Lewis. Was that Jerry Lewis?
Yeah, Jerry Lewis. That was Jerry Lewis. And so I watched it numerous times when I was a kid. But now, when I got older, I read 3 books on polio. What were the names of the books that I read?
Yeah, what's the title? Yeah, or titles?
I don't recall, but I have a couple in the other room actually. But I haven't read any books about polio in a while. I only read 3. It's not like I'm an expert on polio, but I did see the same patterns happened with polio that you see with COVID. It's like, totally like, it's this horrific. A thing about polio that was great for the MIC, the medical industrial complex, is the iron lung.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so the iron lung was scary, you could be in an iron lung for the rest of your life. And so when they have those, another good thing to read about would be like, leprosy. Read about the leper colony in Hawaii. A good book on that is oh good Lord. Anyway, what was the name? It was a great book I read on it. And one of the things that's fascinating about it is with that leper colony, a lot of the things that you see happening today are what happened then as well. For instance, if your name popped hot on the list, the sheriff would come to get you, right?
Wow.
And there were people that came up on the list, and people were like, "How did I get on the list? I never went to see the doctor. There was people who mysteriously got on the list, and they thought it was like maybe sabotage or maybe an accident, or there was all kinds of stuff. Like one sheriff got shot and killed, as I recall. And I mean, and the thing is the leprosy from an epidemiological perspective was actually very difficult to track that thing down. And actually there was a lot of leprosy in, for instance, in Louisiana. And why was it there? And some of it was genetic from those Acadians, right? So there was a lot in France and there was a lot in Louisiana. Where'd that come from? There's a genetic component. I don't understand all the medicine behind it, but it was just fascinating. First of all, from epidemiological point of view, that's always the greatest mystery on earth is epidemiology. That the mysteries of epidemiology are incredible. Yeah. But they finally anyway figured out that leprosy wasn't spread the way that people thought it was spread. Yeah. But there were these colonies all over the world, and there were people like hiding in the jungle, and there were people that paid their way out of it because they were rich or whatever, and they're not being quarantined because they're rich. There's so many interesting. If you read about that leper colony in Hawaii, what was the name of that book? It was excellent, but you'll see it's very similar to today. It's just today we have computers. But it was a process of lists, and then the sheriff comes, and the wife is crying or whatever because they're taking her husband, or and the shootouts and all this sort of stuff. And Joey goes and lives in the jungle. There's all these, and then they end up at the leper colony, and finally people, actors and stuff go over and authors go over and look at it, and they're like, "This is terrible. These people are living out here like basically animals."
Castaways.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to bring something to your attention, which we're talking about epidemiology. But another thing that's really interesting right now is oncology and the oncology departments in hospitals. And I know of one hospital specifically that they have tripled the number of what do they call them? Service providers. That those providers, or just it's providers. was basically a doctor. So we've got people who are specialists in cancers, and this is all because of the jab. There's triple, so the hospitals have tripled their personnel just to deal with the number of cases that have exploded.
We hear similar
And most people don't even know this right now. And it's just like they don't talk about it. They just talk about the deaths, but they don't talk about how the personnel are actually they're responding. So they're now making more money, right? Off whoever's still alive.
Imagine the tortures people are going through because of their, and while you're under those drugs and under that pain, you are signing away all of your property, everything you've got. You're left milk. Yeah. It's like a tick draining you dry. You got
that's a wealth transfer right there. That's a wealth transfer right there.
Hardcore through torture, through literal subtle torture. Look at what's happening with the mothers giving birth. And again, as we started off, and they cut the umbilical cord and they sell those things. They're worth a lot of money, right? And the placentas and whatnot, and that's literal. Again, that is not figurative or hyperbolic cannibalism. That's straight up real cannibalism. Mm-hmm. People are getting the flesh that should have gone into the baby, right? And they're using that for their medical treatments, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. The stem cell treatments and whatnot. That's straight up really true cannibalism in the real sense, right? And now it went through a medical person first, but so they served you the plate. There you go.
And in traditional medicine, we were talking about this offline beforehand, with the situation with Masako and the midwifery, how, we both look at it as like the quote, modern medical field looks at midwifery as witchcraft. And having to deal with that when it's been proven that how many years, centuries has midwifery been used in order to bring about the birth of a child, easily and with no complications. Why is that still being held by certain individuals, in this quote modern medical field that we have
money,
here?
money and power,
yeah.
Slavery, right?
Yeah.
And again, when we went to that obstetrician on June 2nd it was a mandatory, because if you're going to get a midwife in Japan, the hospital or the clinic has to sign off.
Okay.
Right. So otherwise we wouldn't have stepped close to a hospital. I don't want to be there. If I get into a car accident, I got it. Right. But even then, that's only because I got no choice. Right.
Yeah.
But when we're in there and talking to an obstetrician on June 2nd, and she's actually saying she still supports the death jab, or she didn't call it death jab, but still supports the COVID jab. I'm just like, you're employed by this. I don't want to be in this hospital that would employ somebody like that. Yeah. But, chances are most people in there are like that, right? Yeah. I mean, do you want to be anywhere around somebody like that with a needle? You know what I mean? That's the greatest school shooters are turning out to be doctors.
Yeah.
Right? School shooters with the freaking jabs.
Yeah.
That's real school shooting.
Yeah, Borla, the CEO of Pfizer's flat out come out and said that they never tested the damn thing. I mean, the CEO is coming out with the truth, but the doctors won't. It's like, where's this disconnect? I mean, it's just mind-blowing. Yeah. Well, the true believer again, the true believer. Yeah.
One thing, I didn't finish this one train of thought. It's very important, and it deals with what you're just mentioning.
Yes.
And these many books I've read on pandemic, the people that die really quickly are the rich and powerful. Those are the ones. And that's what I was getting to when I was telling you about my numerous people that I know that are quite wealthy and took the jabs, right? And in fact, when Masako and I were flying from Panama or someplace to Mexico or El Salvador, whatever, it doesn't matter. But we were on an airplane, and there was a young couple there. I think they were brother and sister, actually, in young 20s from Brazil. This was back during the COVID time, and they were flying to America to get jabs. They're university students. And I sat beside them on the airplane and that sort of thing. And the girl's very pretty and very smart. And I said, you know what? You're obviously very wealthy because you're taking basically just a weekend off to fly up to America to get the jab, right?
Yeah.
And they're getting a few days off and stopping in Mexico and all. I said, listen, I know you don't know me, but I have studied this over the years, and people like you who are very wealthy, who can jump the head of the line, before you get that jab, just do yourself a favor and read about how often the rich people and kings and queens, they die.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that they demand a cure or safety. And they've got and if you got the gold, somebody's gonna, give you that thing, right? So, and they jump the line and they die. I mean, you see, this is a recurring theme in many of these books I've read. It'll be like, it'll be some royalty that dies after taking the jab or some medicine, it's common. It's common. And likewise, when it came to the polio, I forgot about that. When the polio, the people that are like, hey, we got to jump on a train and go all the way out to, I don't know, Colorado or something. Yeah. They're doing it there where, wherever they're going to give it first, we got to get there fast, fly out there on charter an airplane or something and die, or
just even the idea of somebody on an iron lung. I mean, you have to have money to have an iron lung. What separated it, that the people who didn't have the money but dealt with polio, how is it that they didn't have to have the iron lung? Right.
And the thing is the people that are the very wealthy people, because they're used to getting everything that they want, they can snap their fingers, right? And which is, great. I mean, everybody wants to live like that, right? But you can also get fooled just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Despite how smart or whatever you are, because it happens all the time. And keep in mind, the richer you are, the more of a target you are, right? Yeah. The richer, like for instance, if you're a king and you're worth the whole kingdom, there's always another king, Game of Thrones style, that's plotting on you, right?
Yeah.
And so it might be your own family, and this is normal in that sort of world.
Well, this is actually a cautionary point that you're bringing up, because with the wealthy elite, they become very insular. So the people that they have as their advisory and their groups and their clique that they're within, that clique can either be a benefit to you or it could actually be your downfall. Because if you have a faulty component of that clique, the people that you trust, that could be the person who's yelling, hey, go get the jab, when if you had somebody who was a little bit more researched like yourself, was paying attention and said, no, maybe you shouldn't. I mean, everybody was telling me, and I was like looking at the facts, and I'm going, these facts tell me, the same thing that told you not get it. And we didn't get it. And to the point that, my significant other, she almost lost her job in the medical field because she was not going to take the jab. And they were forcing it on hospital personnel. And then they stopped. And
you told me that. I told Masako. Yeah.
So it's like, that's the whole point of why I even came up with this show, critical thinking. Look at the freaking facts, make your decisions, listen to us, listen to what we're talking about. And then if it doesn't jive with you yet, go and look and talk and listen to other people that you trust that are actually looking critically at what's happening in this world right now. And for a lot of people, I think I think people are just terrified. I mean, what do you think about it? I think people are just terrified when they actually see what we've been looking at for a long time, which is there's some evil people and there's some real dark stuff happening in the world. And a lot of us are alive because we paid attention and we didn't listen to bad intel, and we are alive because of it. And there are people who are not.
Fear. Fear is the number one, when you're brainwashing, fear is the number one way to, is fear, right? Yeah. You can corral people or animals or whatever, and fear. And so the thing is if you are a very wealthy person and you want advice, it's extremely important that the people you're getting that advice from have a strong moral grounding.
Yes.
They need to have a strong moral grounding. And because if they don't have a strong moral grounding, then they're just looking at you as dripping with gold.
Yeah.
Right. If they have a strong moral grounding, they still want to get paid as well, but they'll actually look out for you. Right. They'll do their side of the bargain.
Yeah.
Right.
And it makes a picture in my mind right now. And I actually, as you were talking, I was just thinking about King Arthur, and his knights, because his knights not only fought for him and were also part of the round table. As part of that round table, as a good leader, he was also listening to them. And if they didn't have the moral fiber to be at that round table, they were not worthy of being as advisors to the king, right?
Right.
And people forget that. And people have paid for forgetting that by bringing or allowing somebody into their circle that either out of evil intent or just basic stupidity or ignorance or arrogance brought in information that led to the downfall of whoever their leaders. And we see this through history, in various cultures and communities. And we see it in our own families, in my own family, I've had family members that were just pushing for the shot. I have to deal with my mother, who's dealing, I think, with the effects of it. But I won't bring it up with her. I won't bring it up with her. I never got the shot because and I was telling her not to. I won't say who told her to do it, but c'est la vie, as we used to say when I was a kid in Vietnam. C'est la vie, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
There is I've seen around the world and around America, there is a natural slave class of people that actually see themselves. I mean, they want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
There is a natural, and there is a natural slave driver class, right? And they come from every race, right? It's like, and then there's people like us that we're not going to be somebody's slave, but we don't want slaves either. There's that class, which is the class that we're in.
Yeah.
Some of the most dangerous people actually aren't the slave drivers, but the natural slave class.
Interesting.
The natural slave class is the ones that end up being the ones that want to force everybody. They're the enforcers.
Yeah.
Those are the enforcers.
Yeah. Did you ever do any studies into who the prison guards were at a lot of the Japanese camps during World War II?
Yeah, they were Koreans.
What's that?
They were Koreans.
They were Koreans. When people hear that, they're like, "What?"
I'm surprised you know that.
Yeah, well, I worked in Korea, so that's why I knew. But if you're in Korea and you talk to Koreans, they don't want to talk about it. They do not want to talk about it because it's so true. And if you because I talked to a Dutch guy, and he was married to a Korean, and he was the first one to start telling me, says, one of the worst things that you hear for the Koreans is that they were the guards for the Japanese. And that is what you're talking about right there. That's the slave class. When they become the slave class.
But actually, they were Japanese citizens. Like for instance, Korea at that time, this is important. Korea at that time was part of Japan. Korea was Japan. They were Japanese citizens. There were Koreans who were Japanese generals and everything else. They were elected officials. They were policemen that were armed and unarmed policemen. Koreans were full Japanese citizens, right?
Yes.
But they didn't want them in the Navy. They didn't get along quite as well with the Koreans in the Navy.
Huh.
But they had Koreans in the Japanese Army.
Yeah.
And as officers, right, including generals, right?
Yeah.
And so they were again elected officials. They were I've said this before, and it angers people, and they go, "Oh, you don't know anything about Texas or Korea." I've said, it's basically Korea was sort of like Texas. It was absorbed, right? And it was willfully absorbed, right? Yeah. And because, Texas joined up. It wasn't like Japan. When I'm in Korea and I ask, and people will bring, because there's a huge information war being run by CCP. I wrote 3 books about it. I wrote these books. I mean, these are books I wrote about that, right? This is one of them, and this is another one. And the other one, I don't know where it's at. I had 3 books that I wrote on it. These are, I had these out the other day, but these are books that I wrote on the various information war that CCP is running, right? And there's me in my old Iraq picture, right?
Who did the translation for your books into Japanese?
The publisher. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I did 3 of them, and I went all over China researching it, and all over Asia, and the United States and Australia, Philippines. Anyway, but the point is there's a huge information war going that China is running to make Koreans hate Japanese. But in reality, anyway, I could go into that for hours. I wrote 3 books about it. I mean, I could teach a university course on it. But the point is that when I'm in Korea, a lot of the Koreans realize it's nonsense. I think most of them do actually, but a lot of them don't. Like normal, of course. It's not you see the same thing across the world and the jabs or whatever. But But so when I ask the Koreans, if the Koreans who believe in it, they'll say, "Oh, the Japanese invaded us," and I always come back with the same thing: "Oh, the Japanese invaded you," because I'll bring this up sometimes and see what their thoughts and feelings are, because this is a key information where it's very important.
Yeah.
And they'll say the Japanese invaded them, which actually never happened. So I'll say, "Oh, the Japanese invaded you. That's terrible. Where did they invade? Where specifically? There must be like a museum and monuments there. Do you know when that was? When did the Japanese actually invade? I know they didn't parachute then because there was no airplanes then. There was no. They must have come by ship because that would be the only way to do it, right? So it must be on that coast over there, probably. It's around here somewhere. Yeah. Where did they invade? Okay, here's the real deal. They didn't invade, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these information wars they absorbed, and Korea agreed with it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was legal then, and it was legal now. It would be legal by today's law, right? And so, I mean, but that's not the point. The point is, Koreans were you asked me who ran the prison camps in World War II for the Japanese. It was Koreans.
Yeah.
But they were Japanese. Yeah. They were wearing Japanese uniforms. Yeah. So it's not like you can go, hey, it's not our fault because it was Koreans. Yeah. No, if we put somebody in an American uniform, if we put a Somali in an American uniform and he does Somali stuff, he's an American soldier. Yeah.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because it was the brutality of the guards, specifically the Korean guards over the Japanese guards.
They were famous for it.
Famous for being more brutal, and it's kind of like people don't like to hear it or talk about it, but it's kind of like with blacks in this country, it's like racism in the black community. Go, damn right there is, and it might even be worse than among the whites.
It's far worse. Yeah. I grew up with blacks. Yeah. I was in the army with blacks. They're way racist against each other.
Yeah. Against each other and other darker, like Mexicans, like blacks and Mexicans and blacks and Asians.
I grew up with it since I was a puppy that tall, right? I mean, I'm fluent in that, right? It's like, it's been, and it's super racist against each other.
They become the hunting dog than in the same way with the jab. It's like once they get that jab, they're like, now it's like, oh, you got to get the jab or else,
Oh, they'd be like, I ain't gonna pay attention to you. Look at all that dark skin. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm like, that's amazing. I grew up with it. It was normal day to day stuff. Yeah. I mean, and that wasn't
Florida too. Yeah, damn.
Yeah, and so I mean, I saw it all over America too. I've been all over the United States, and it's just normal, and again, normal doesn't mean good. Normal means that's a mathematical term. It's something that happens. Yeah. Even if something happens one time out of 1,000 times, okay, the normal is one time out of 1,000 times, right? Right.
And what you get is like an extremism, and that's what I notice is this extremism. Like someone might say, okay, well, you might want to take the jab, as compared to say, no, you need to take the jab. You need to go and do this because I'm here to help you. That kind of attitude. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing now, with people. And here's your doctor, telling you in Masako about like, oh, well, yeah, it's really important for you to get your, this test here. And you're saying, no, we don't, and how are you able to get around stuff like that? Because we're having the issues, in the United States where they could push something like that on us, which is totally illegal right now.
Yeah, well, they'll do it. They don't care about the law. Law doesn't matter. We're talking about people that see themselves as above any human law, right? Yeah. And they think the only laws they have to deal with are laws of physics, and they're looking for how to break those too, right? Good luck with that. But this always brings up that difficult situation too, where we're like, I wouldn't take the jab, but I don't want to be the guy that says, you can't take the jab. I mean, who am I to say that? I'm no, so you don't want to. The thing is, you don't want to alienate everybody around you by being the radical anti-jabber, because then they don't listen to you. But at the same time, you feel this internally, like, I at least need to say my piece, because there are people out there that just needed to hear one person say, I'm not taking it. Yeah. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I mean, I hope that you make the right decision. Yeah. Actually, I hope you make the right decision, and that the jab is very good. But because if you make the wrong decision, you take the jab, you could be dead. Yeah. And they made the wrong decision. And so that's just this full stop. That's obvious at this point.
Yeah. And, and we're 62 years old. We're not in the great shape we were in our 20s. We didn't get the jab, and we're still alive. And how many times have we
I'm happier than I've ever been in my life, man.
There you go.
Yeah. My Euclid book fell over. I've been studying Euclid again because we're going to have Baby Bear soon.
Oh, cool. Cool. Did you ever get a copy of Tacitus? I'm going back into that book. That book.
No, I didn't.
That book it's like everything that's happening right now. That Tacitus is just, he's talking about Britain, but it's like that's what they're doing to all of us. They're giving the carrot.
You got me thinking, because usually when you tell me, but the thing is I've got a long list of books that I'm, as you can imagine, it's quite long. It's not measured in dozens. It's measured in kilometers.
Time
of books that I want to read.
Yeah. So, I don't want to spend too much more time because I know you're real busy and everything, and I got to go out and do a bunch of farm work and everything myself.
Yeah.
But the screwworm thing, I see it affecting the price of beef, definitely. There's the other issue, and we talked about that because I told you about how we had one of the cameramen on Treasure Quest Snake Island down in Discovery Channel down in Brazil, and he got the bot fly, and people think, oh, it's like the bot fly, but the screwworm is not the bot fly. The bot fly larvae will not kill you. It will not kill humans, but the screwworm will kill humans. So you can get it from cattle.
Rarely it kills humans, but the people that it kills is because you're like bedridden or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not like you get a screwworm. I got a screwworm and it killed me. It's not like that. It's more of a if you're bedridden and then it can kill you.
Okay, but it's basically it's going to be a hit in the wallet, and it's going to be a major supply hit, especially through Texas and New Mexico. Right now, it's Texas, New Mexico. I don't know how long it takes to get into Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi.
15 minutes because they're doing it intentionally, right? I mean, it's probably already there, right? I mean, you just take them and drop them over in the right time of year, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You spread them. I mean, this clearly is intentional. So it only takes enough time to fly over there with your airplane and drop them out with the ticks.
Yeah. And this is wild. It just hit me just now. I had a friend in high school. And he told me, this shows you how you can control the market. And what you're doing now is you're transporting screwworms. And this relates to a story that was told to a friend of mine, and most people are all dead right now, so I'm just going to flat out say the whole story, which is it relates to Mars. You know Mars bars, chocolate bars?
Yep.
So we're talking very wealthy. So a friend of my good friend's mother was connected to the Mars family. And they told my friend's mother's friend to buy shares in lemons. And this is Florida. So buy shares in lemons. This was like 1982, 1980. And she didn't. My friend's mother didn't, even though he advised her. Well, soon after that, there was a major blight through all the lemons on the East Coast. So we're talking controlling the market.
Right.
By doing things like this. And we're talking, back then it was lemons, right now it's beef. So for people to understand what's happening, you can control something that big and that large, as evidence that I know personally from my own experience about, this is ag, where you're just wiping out a whole lemon industry in a section. California, of course, was okay. So they could still make money off the lemons they were selling from California. But all the East Coast lemons were done. Which means what happened is it's based on demand and supply. So you've now halved your supply, which means your price is going to go up. So whoever's going to still buy lemons is going to be paying through the nose. Same way people are going to be paying through the nose on beef. So
Oh yeah. And they'll be printing beef and poisoning people.
Bill Gates and stuff is just
one other thing. What's happening with all these missing children, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are they being used in the medical industrial complex? There's so many ways to do it. I mean, they can their body parts can be harvested, right?
Yeah.
Their organs, their eyes, the components of their bodies, right? They can mate children together and have stem cells from, young girls or whatever, they can do all this stuff. And this is the sort of stuff they will do, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking, massive money here. And we're talking about people that have zero rules.
Yeah. Or
They have
empathy
no
a lot of
ethics.
times. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they have no ethics. They have no morality. They have no empathy.
Yeah.
They're, in fact, actively cruel.
Yeah.
And so they will do anything, and they'll do anything to live forever, right?
Yeah.
Even they would kill every kid in Gaza if they could live an extra 2 days. You know what I mean? This is the kind of savages that we're dealing with, right?
Who's your friend in Texas who was running? Was he running for governor? He's a Green Beret. I think he's a doctor also, or no?
Yeah, Doc Chambers. You should talk with him. Yeah, Pete Chambers. He's awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does he have to say? I mean, I'd like to talk with him later about it, but what has he told you about all this with the screwworm and the effects in the area?
Doc was with me when we asked I talked with one of the veterinarians in Texas and asked him to come brief our Burning Edge team. Okay. So Ann Vandersteel was there, and Doc was there, as I recall. And I asked him to brief us on bovine tuberculosis and screwworms and anthrax. Mm-hmm. So he came down and he briefed us, actually. Okay. And I can introduce you to him, actually. And so, in fact, I saw a press conference the other day, and he was behind one of the Texas officials, the veterinarian. He's in his maybe mid-70s now. Super smart guy. I've been trying to get him down to the Darien Gap. Okay. Anyway, but let me get out of here now, because there's a lot of stuff going on.
I wanted to make a quick question about Griffin, because I wanted to mention about the Red Pill. Are you going to the Red Pill Expo?
Yeah, Mr. Griffin called me a couple days ago, and they put out their advertisement yesterday that I'll be there.
Great.
Okay. So today I was actually working on that. So yeah, I'm supposed to speak. Mr. Griffin wants me to speak in Las Vegas on the 11th and 12th of July.
It's going to be on the 11th and 12th of July.
Yep.
Okay, great.
As I recall, look on my Twitter, and I'll put it on my Substack later today.
Okay, actually. And I'll put that link to your Twitter on this episode too. And so people can go over and check out the Red Pill Expo, and just so people are aware of it. And so you'll be there. So that'd be great. Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Michael.
All right, sir.
Good talking. Cheers.
Talk soon. Bye.